The main finding is that psychological distress has increased quite significantly over the last 10 years. So it went from about 1 in 10 reporting serious mental health problems to just over 1 in 4.
Back on Closer Look on this Tuesday, the 3rd day of February, one day post-Wyerton Willie. I woke up to minus 21 this morning, so I had some choice words for that rodent.
Yeah, what was it, minus 21? Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no, I thought you wanted to know what the choice words were.
No, I won't.
You do not want to know what they were.
Hear that, yeah.
No. Hey, it's like Christmas for you. I hear you got a new computer.
I know. I want to thank my friend Jake Cormier, who's been spent the last 2 hours setting it up. I've been reading off pieces of paper. I'm not even looking at my phone.
It's crazy, but we should tell the audience, because they don't have the luxury of sitting as close to you as Derek and I do. Your old MacBook hums like crazy, it's like the thing was going to blow up.
It felt like a bomb was going off.
So if anybody was due for a new piece of tech,
it was time. I've been in Village for a little more than 4 years, and that was the computer. And Jake was the first guy I met, besides Jeff, who hired me. Jake was the next guy I met when I met him over here on the weekend, and he gave me that laptop and gave me a tour of the place. And
that was the first day you and I met.
That's right. No, I think because I met him on the weekend. I came in on a weekend.
Yeah, remember, I was coming out of the gym.
That's right.
See?
When I was going into the gym. Yeah, that's right. Did we meet that? We did meet that.
We did meet that,
So it's all come full circle. See? Here we are. Now I get a new laptop. Better work well, but Jake's getting it all set up.
It's funny. I didn't get a new laptop.
I'm excited.
Okay, let's get to today's show. There's new research out of the Hammer, McMaster University, regarding teens and cannabis use.
Yeah, and it's really the gist of the research. It talks about just how more and more teens are experiencing distress, mental health issues. And the research looks into the fact of whether cannabis use is increasing that distress, especially in young girls.
Right.
It's a fascinating look at that issue and using data that already exists and kind of looking at it in a different way. To me, it just speaks to a lot of – I feel like we've done a few shows on this lately about mental or general – how we feel and our mental health.
General well-being, right?
General well-being, right? And what's causing this? Is it triggered by the legalization of weed? Is it, is it just the stuff we talk about all the time, the screen use, general doom and gloom about the world? So André McDonald is the lead author. He's a post-doctoral fellow at McMaster, and he is a busy guy too, and he's taking a few minutes to speak to us tonight. We're looking forward to it.
New research from McMaster University shows that psychological distress among teenagers in Ontario has tripled in the past decade, and that frequent cannabis use, though uncommon, is increasingly tied to that distress. According to the research, this is especially true among girls. Joining us tonight to talk about the study is the lead author, André McDonald, a postdoctoral fellow at McMaster. André, thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate your time.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. Your study published last week in the journal Addiction analyzed data from more than 35,000 students in grades 7 through 12. Where does that data come from?
So this is a survey that CAMH conducts every 2 years, and it's done in schools across the province. It's highly representative of Ontario teens. It captures about 95, the target population, 95% of Ontario teens is captured by this study.
All right, and let's get into it. What were some of the findings?
Well, you kind of mentioned it. The main finding is that psychological distress has increased quite significantly over the last 10 years. So it went from about 1 in 10 reporting serious mental health problems to just over 1 in 4, which is quite a big jump. This study specifically looked at cannabis in relation to those mental health problems. And what we found was that the association between cannabis use and mental health problems became stronger over time. And a couple of possible reasons that we mentioned in the study. Number one, the potency of cannabis has really increased over time in terms of THC. And number two, it's possible that a lot of teens today are actually using cannabis to cope with their mental health problems. And that was another thing that we looked at in this study. And most teens, we actually asked them, most teens reported using cannabis to cope with their mental health problems. So it's possible that we have this bidirectional relationship where cannabis is both contributing to and is being used to cope with mental health problems.
That's a great point. So we're not sure whether it's one side or the other, right?
From this study alone, we can't really say because we measured both at the same time, so you can't really establish which came first. So yeah, from this study, we can't say for sure.
So Andre, one of the things it says is roughly 20% of the more than 35,000 students involved in the study reported cannabis use. Do you know how much that's gone up, say, in the last decade? It's 20 now. What was it before?
So it's interesting. In this study, we actually found that cannabis use among teens went down. And I think it was from 23% to 17%. And so, but that's kind of a general trend in teens these days, that they're just not using substances as much. For example, alcohol use has really dropped significantly over the past decade, especially since the pandemic. And I think that has something to do with, teens socialize differently after the pandemic. It kind of disrupted a lot of the ways that they would socialize before.
That's a great point. I think I'm going to veer off a little bit of your research, but yeah, why is that? Why are teens using less weed and less alcohol?
I'm not as much of an expert on that question as this specific study, but I think it's they're spending a lot of time online. I think that's probably the biggest factor. Is just they're increasingly spending time online, and so that contributes to less, real life social engagement.
Andre, I just want to go back to the potency for a second. Can you talk about the relationship between that and adolescent brains?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting question. So just to put context, the average potency of flower cannabis has increased. So from the late 90s, it was about on average 6%. And today it's over 20% in flower cannabis. But that doesn't even go into other products that have kind of become more popular, especially since legalization. So you have, for example, cannabis extracts, where it's basically pure THC. And so, if THC is sort of having this harmful effect on the developing brain, teens who are using cannabis today are presumably being exposed to more of that THC, which would be more harmful to their neurodevelopment. So that's sort of the theory behind that.
Does the legalization question come into play at all here, Andre, in terms of the fact that it's now legal?
So we didn't specifically look at that in this study, but I think, as I was mentioning, since legalization, it's the types of products that teens are using has changed. So from that perspective, even though cannabis use is going down, the teens who are using cannabis are using more dangerous products.
Yes.
So it's kind of tricky to give like a conclusive answer on that.
It's interesting because we recently had on a doctor from CAMH was on the show talking about, because CAMH just put out a big report talking about how we're all feeling more depressed and down than we have in a long time. And this seems to match that in terms of the teenagers. And we've touched on it, but what are some of the things we can point to for why kids are feeling this down? I
mean, it's tricky. I think the pandemic is a big factor. It really disrupted a lot of, their social routines, kind of what I was talking about before. This study specifically looked at cannabis, and we did find that the association became stronger over time. So that could be a potential factor. But then there's, societal level factors. The people are struggling financially. It's really difficult to pinpoint like one thing that's doing. It's probably a lot of factors that are at play here.
Andre, the gender gap really jumps out. Why are girls showing a stronger link between cannabis use and psychological distress?
That's actually a mystery. So there have been other studies that have found that, and it's unclear why that's happening. It's possible that it has to do with girls being more likely to report psychological distress than boys. So there might even be something to do with their willingness to report that, especially in girls who are using substances. So that could possibly explain it, but we don't really have a good answer for that question. But I agree, it was kind of striking that the association was much stronger in girls.
Where do you go from here in terms of research to try to answer that question more fully about whether that people are smoking weed or using cannabis because they feel more stressed, or it's the opposite?
So in teens, so the best way to answer a question is to do a randomized controlled trial where you basically assign half of the people cannabis and the other half not. Obviously, you can't do that in teens. So the next best thing is to kind of repeatedly measure them over time, ask about cannabis use, ask about psychological distress, and then you try to establish, which came first. And that's sort of a longitudinal observational study design that you would be doing for that.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if this is a fair question, Andre, but people read these headlines or read another report like this, and there's been others like it where people are it feels like people's mental health is as bad as it's ever been. It can kind of feel hopeless for some people when they see these. What's your message to people who read this and have those feelings that this is just another example of how just things are getting worse and worse?
That's a good question. Kind of veers outside of my scientific opinions, more into my personal opinions. But
those are good too.
Yes, they are.
We take personal opinions too.
I mean, I would say that in a lot of ways, there are a lot of indicators that are suggesting that humans are doing better than they've ever done before. At a societal level. So I think human progress. We do have human progress, but specifically to mental health, the way that we're kind of see the world and internalize the world, that might be changing, to the negative side. But I don't want to be like a doom and gloom, like it's all bad. There's a lot of good in the world.
Sure, we try to find those stories every day.
Day.
We try to feature them on the podcast too. I feel like it's been harder and harder. In terms of your research, what's next for you on this front?
So what I was mentioning before in terms of doing that longitudinal study where you repeatedly measure people over time, we are doing several studies that kind of use that design. And we are really trying to get at that question of causality. Mm-hmm. Is it cannabis that is causing these mental health problems, or are teens using cannabis to cope with them? So that really is a tricky question. There's no perfect design for that kind of a study in teens. So we're just trying to do the best that we can with that question.
And how long does that typically take? Is that a years-long study?
So the data's already been collected, but yeah, you would want to do that over years because it potentially takes time for that, for the effect of cannabis to, bring on mental health problems for that to happen. That would be, the study that we're doing is over 5 years, for example.
All right. Andre, anything else about the research that we didn't cover tonight that we should have?
I think we covered the big questions. I guess just the message to teens would be, if you can, try to delay the initiation of use. If you are going to use cannabis products, try to use lower THC products. Especially for girls, based on this study, they should be concerned about, it's possible that there is something biological in terms of, this is an age where they're hitting puberty. That's possible. So until we have more data on this, girls should be especially careful.
All right, well said. From McMaster University tonight, there's André McDonald. André, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, good of Andre to join us. And interesting to see where the next phase of this research takes us.
It is interesting because it does raise that question about, we know that the young brains are not fully developed. And when you add THC into the mix, what happens? To me, I always seem like the downer on this show. I'm not trying to be feeling doom and gloom.
It's funny, we've never said that.
Yeah, but it's true. You feel, I shouldn't even giggle about it, but you just see report after report, research after research just saying that we're feeling more down than we ever have. There's something going on in the world that we just don't feel good. I don't know if it's these phones we all have attached to us. It's the social media pressure, the 24/7 screens. AI, that's coming. That'll wipe us all out anyway, so we'll be fine. All right, next up on...
Speaking of doom and gloom, all right, AI, thank you.
We might see you tomorrow.
That's right. We will see you tomorrow. In the meantime, closer look at villagemedia.ca. Reach out anytime. We'd love to hear from you. Derek Turner back at the helm tonight. Good to have him as always. For Michael Friscolanti, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Thanks for joining us. See you tomorrow night at 7 right here on Closer Look.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.